After this week's crisis summit at Sandringham, it looked like Harry and Meghan were getting the Canada-style transition deal they wanted, having their cake and eating it. The trouble is, it's looking like Canada doesn't want them. The country's finance minister has denied reports it will foot the couple's security bill, and Canada's biggest-selling newspaper says as long as the pair remain royal, they shouldn't be allowed to stay. Here's a quote: "As long as you're a member of the royal family, this country cannot become your home." That's from the Globe and the Mail. It's not something Canada should allow. What's clear is that, unlike Meghan and Harry, the Canadians respect the Queen and the institution she represents and won't see either damaged or embarrassed. Their view is, come here if you want to, but as plain old Meghan and Harry, and deal with all the form filling, the work permits, the immigration status, just like ordinary independent people would. And don't expect the Canadian taxpayers to foot your bills. Well, it sounds good to me, but as much as they shout about wanting independence, I'm not sure this petulant, insensitive couple understand the concept.
I honestly don't see what all the fuss is about. I mean, and I'll tell you why. Look, first of all, I think Megxit's a misnomer, and it's unfortunate that people have decided to make it about Meghan and her views when it's not only Meghan that wants it out of the royal family. Harry, for years and years and years, has said all he wants ever to be is to be a normal person. On top of that, if you remember the Queen's Christmas Day...
He never said he wants to be out of the royal family.
Let me please complete my thoughts. If you remember the Queen's Christmas Day address, she didn't include their photo on the mantelpiece there, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is because Prince Charles, when he becomes king, wants to, probably sensibly and rightfully so, wants to streamline the monarchy and only include the direct line of succession. And so, in other words, they were going to be out eventually anyway. They probably jumped before they were pushed. Nobody was happy with the situation. So surely, with them out of whatever it means to be a senior royal, everyone ultimately should be happy. And what I think this is really about, as a columnist, Freddie says, and for Unheard mentioned recently, I think this is actually come to symbolise more of a deeper struggle, a meta struggle between, let's call them the entitled traditional establishment versus the privileged, woke, new cultural establishment. And that kind of meta struggle is what we see playing out in our media. I actually think it's a storm in a teacup. I mean, if somebody doesn't want to be a member of a club or a firm...
Seriously? You think
they
this
can
is a storm
leave.
in a teacup?
If somebody doesn't want to be a member... We cannot compel people to live a life they're not happy living, and Harry's never been happy, and I actually am quite disturbed people are making it all about Meghan when really nobody was happy with the situation.
Did you read the Queen's statement?
Well, no, I read extracts of it. I didn't read the whole thing. But
so
yes,
that statement, Kevin, you've just said...
Well, Carole, why don't I read it out? Because I must say, I'm amazed you haven't read the Queen's statement, because it's very rare Her Majesty makes a statement like this, and it was deeply personal. Now, listen, she says, "My family and I are entirely supportive of Harry and Meghan's desire to create a new life as a young family, although we would have preferred them to remain full-time working members of the royal family. We respect and understand their wish to live a more independent life as a family while remaining a valued part of my family. These are complex matters for my family to resolve, and there is some more work to be done, but I've asked for final decisions to be reached in the coming days." Did you note how many times?
I did read that one.
8 times she mentioned the word family in that short statement. She's devastated he's leaving. You do not know he's always wanted to leave the royal family.
And you don't know they jumped before they were pushed.
He's very popular. He's had an incredibly privileged life. He's been brought up as part of the royal family. He's met a young woman who I think has discovered it wasn't the fairy tale she thought it was going to be. She loved the wedding in the carriage, with people waving their flags, but I suspect she discovers when you've got to go and open a plaque in a village hall in Merthyr Tydfil on a Thursday afternoon, it's not as glamorous. She doesn't like the deference to the Queen, the deference to William and his wife, but that's how it is in the royal family. It's hierarchical, and she's not accepted.
Well,
It always takes two to tango.
But that's not what's upset us the most. It's clearly what's upset her the most is the treatment by certain sections of the media.
Oh, not that again,
now, these two are part of that, and they won't accept
Greg?
a part of that pop, a part of the columnists of the popular media.
Same old cliche.
Can I just say?
But all right, let's have a... Last week, I don't know if you saw it, but last week on Question Time, they asked the audience, how many of you don't sympathise with them? Not a single hand went up. And actually, there's a poll this week that shows that I think it's 26% are against their decision, which means 74% are either don't care or are for it. I mean...
That's selective of that, though. I read that.
Well, all polls are selective, I think, particularly when you're using them. But
it says much more than what you just said.
No, but I mean, the real thing is that the public, I think, I tend to agree with you, don't care that much, but actually...
The one thing that Greg omitted from that poll, which is rather staggering, 63% do not think the Duke and Duchess of Sussex should continue to receive an income from the Duchy of Cornwall. In other words, if they want to give up this life, they've got to give up the money, which is millions and millions of pounds every year. Which is what they've said over time they want to do.
Can I just bring in Harry, because we're talking about what Harry wants. I think Harry can speak for himself, as can Meghan, and this is what Harry said he wants. I go into the cookhouse and everyone has a good old gorp, and that's one thing that I dislike about being here, because there's plenty of guys in there that have never met me, therefore look at me as Prince Harry and not as Captain Wales, which is frustrating, which is probably another reason why I'd love to be out on the patrol bases away from it all. It's as normal as it's going to get. I'm one of the guys, I don't get treated any differently. I suspect he's never wanted this attention. June?
Well, no. All I'm going to say is I'm not going to comment on this debate because I'm a huge admirer of both the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex, and I work closely with their charities, so I don't want to get into this debate, but I am quite surprised by some of the stuff that I'm hearing. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, you can't say surprising. I'm not going to get it.
Carry on, please, carry on.
Strawberries. This is a debate programme.
Not surprised that you weren't involved.
I delegate to you.
There we are. I get extra time as a result.
Can I just ask you, I mean, the worry will be if they do walk away from this very gilded life, that your charities, you'll have to find new patrons, and they're letting those charities down.
I delegate.
So you mentioned Andrew, you mentioned the money and the tax.
Yes,
I believe, and if correct me if I'm wrong, and by the way, I had read that statement and I was thinking of a different one, but I believe that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, there was one when they first announced on Instagram. Hold on, Carol, please. I believe that they've already said and accepted that they won't need the money and they won't take the money, won't expect the money to come their way.
This is nonsense. They said they still want the money from the Duchy of Cornwall, which is 2.5 million.
That's private money.
No, hang on.
It's not private money. It's from the Duchy of Cornwall.
That is money that was a deal done with the state hundreds of years ago.
Yes, but it's not the same as a sovereign wealth fund.
Well, no, but come on. It's the personal money of the Prince of Wales, which he's inherited, which the robber barons pinched off landowners hundreds of years ago.
It's personal money, isn't it?
Well, it's personal in the sense until it's William's money when he becomes Prince of Wales.
But surely Maajid's point is the right one, that actually, which we've said on this programme before, they are going to be less and less significant as their life goes on, as William's children grow up. And we've seen it, if you look back at the Queen's children. And from my opinion, if this is what they decide they want to do, then they should go and do it. If it means giving up the money, then they've got to give up the money. They've got to work
but it's very interesting that Canada has had a couple of weeks of the kind of exposure to Meghan and Harry, and this was the whole point of my interview. I wanted to take.
Canada is complaining about the media exposure.
This is the biggest.
It's you guys.
This is the biggest newspaper did a leader, which is representative of the people who read the newspaper, and what they're saying is they do not want to get involved with Meghan and Harry. They don't want them there as royals at all.
What do you want to happen?
Well, Canada has said quite clearly, as long as they remain members of the royal family, they don't want them there. What they're saying, I want them to go as quickly as possible, because I think they're damaging the royal brand. So you want them to go where? Well, can I finish? He's just asked me a question. I think they're damaging the royal brand, and I think they've lost a lot of public support the minute they started criticising the Queen, because they disrespected her, they insulted her, they've insulted the people of this country. They tell us all we're racist and sexist. So as far as I'm concerned, the quicker they shove off, the better.